This is Kohili, this is Stokely, and this is the roadmap to success. I'm going to start off by doing something a little bit, well, in an unusual order. We just came outside to do the door video, but they both went potty, and they've had some accidents in the house, so I'm going to start off by with some remedial potty training. So dogs learn through association and repetition and good timing. You have 3 seconds to correct reward the dog. For potty training, a lot of people say, go outside and make a potty. And sometimes the dog absolutely happens to go out and coincidentally was going to potty anyways and potties, and we interpret that as you know how to potty, when it was just coincidental. Next time we say potty and the dog doesn't know it, you're like, you know this. So we have to, the way that we teach them the word is by saying the command word when they're in the act. So when the dogs are outside, if you see either one start to pee or poop, you might want to, Guardian here probably can get away with saying potty, that's a word she's been using, but sometimes I recommend coming up with a new word. It's a little bit faster and easier if you come up with a new new word. But let's say we're going to use potty. So as soon as one of the dogs starts to pee or poop, looks like he's getting ready to poop actually, we would say the word potty within 3 seconds of him starting. Now if it's poop, like if you know he's going to do it, which I can tell because he's circling, poop or potty. So basically he's circled, he was just giving us a lot of indications. If you can read your dog and you know ahead of time, say it as soon as you recognize it. So you say it once, potty, and then I'm not gonna motion a lot, I'm gonna wait, and we're not showing him doing his business because he's drunk. Oh, he's still going. So wait for the dog to be done. Yeah, that was a good come. But I'm saving a treat for somebody who's doing some business. So within 3 seconds of him finishing, we want to give him the treat, give him the reward, and say potty a second time. Now, after a while, the dog starts to associate. When I'm in the act of pooping or peeing, I hear the word, and then immediately after, I get a treat, and as soon as the treat goes in my mouth, I hear the word again. And after enough repetition, then you can actually say the word, and if the dog bounces up and down, you know it's a yes. If you say the word and the dog just kind of looks at you, you know that's a no. So she's the one that either maybe has some separation anxiety and losing control of her bowels. There we go, her turn. It is potty. It's potty time. All right, so basically when she gets done, I'm going to do the same thing. Now, the guardian said that she does not actually bark. He will bark. There was one of them had a dog door. Potty. So one of the dogs had a dog door, is used to it, and the other one had learned both ways, and I think that's part of the factor because this is a new house for them. So what I would suggest is ringing a bell. So the way to teach a dog to ring a bell is pretty simple. Now the biggest mistake most people make when they're teaching a dog to ring a bell is they hang the bell from the door. Dogs learn through association. So what the bell ringing means is the door is opening, not potty. So if you have jingle bells, is usually all that people can find these days. So as soon as the dog starts to pee or poop, gently ring the bell and simulate the sound the dog is going to make when it hits his first paw. I see a lot of people go, and that dog is never going to make that sound. So jingle, 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 the whole duration come as they're peeing or pooping. Same word for, same sound for both. As soon as they get done, clamp it, then ask the dog to come over, pull out a treat, put it in the dog's mouth, and jingle, jingle while it's chewing it. So you saw that was only about 2 bites, so I only got 2 jingles. And then I clamp it again. So then the next step, and I do that every time I take them out for like a week to 2 weeks. After a while, this is a classical conditioning, that bell means potty. So then I hang it next to the doorway, but at first. I would hang it next to, so you can open the door and it doesn't make the sound. And then what I would do is the second week or the third week, whatever week you actually put this up, take a little bit of peanut butter. Peanut butter okay?
Uh-huh.
So take a little bit of peanut butter. I usually do a toothpick, so I get a big chunk, pea size on one side, and just a little bit on the other side. Then I lead the dog to if this is the bell, I lead the dog to the bell, and I let it get the big chunk of peanut butter off this side, and then I put the little tiny bit on the bell with the little side. And then they're there, they go and they lick it or nudge it, and it makes that bell sound, and I open the door and let them out. Now, if you just hang it from the door, then that represents ring the bell means to go outside, and that's different than what we intend. So now at the first week, you knew the peanut butter trick. My sister, she had a Westie. She just took her dog's paw and hit the door or hit the bell. And as soon as she did it, then she let the door and let the dogs go out. So now at first you want to just have the bell exclusively here. But because we have a big house in different areas, if there's a room where the dog's going to be in and it's not going to have access to make it to this door, put a bell in that room too. So that way the dog can indicate to you at any point, any room in the house, I have to potty. A lot of pottying going on. We just spent 3 hours inside going over dog behavior tricks. Come, that's passive training, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Okay, so the Guardian also, the backyard is partially fenced, but not completely fenced. I would highly recommend getting that done, because being able to let the dogs run around and fart around without being supervised, they stay here for the most part unless they see rabbits or squirrels. All it takes is one time, a bad situation, we end up with a three-legged dog or worse, and we don't want to have any of that stuff happen. They're both awesome dogs. So, come here, sweetheart. She had a dead fly in her in her fur, so I thought it was just a fly camping out. No, it was dead. Okay, so fencing in the backyard could really help. Like I said, I've got a great guy that is pretty affordable, so if you want, let me know and I can give you his number and he can come over and try to, you're a smarty pants. Sit. Sit. Come. And he can talk to you about that. Let me see, what else? We went over rules and structure. The Guardians had some rules in place. It's a little bit difficult for these dogs because they're used to being on the furniture, but now we have a different commingling living environment. And one of the people who lives here would prefer the dogs are not on the furniture. And the dog's primary guardian is being a wonderful person saying, well, then that's what we're going to do, which is not always the case. So now it's harder to take something away than it is to give it than to give them more freedom or access. So if you're watching this, if you don't let your dogs in the furniture, or you're going to foster a dog or get a puppy, it might not be a bad idea to restrict and not allow the dog in the furniture at first. You can always do it later on. So I showed the Guardian how to just off camera how to take the dog, give the dog directional commands. I would do the same thing for the furniture. So the dog jumps up on the furniture. Come here, buddy. Let's say this represents the couch. And when we get off, what I would do is take a treat, touch his nose, put it down there, and say off. So toss it down once, and then he goes and gets it. Now, if he tries to come back a second time, I would block with my hands. Okay. Now, I also went through some other tricks off camera that'll help keep the dogs off the furniture when the people are gone. I would highly recommend getting those, because that makes it, you need at least 30 days of them not being able to go on, if not longer, sit. Other rules would be having to sit before we let them in or out the door. I talk about that a little bit in the video above, but I go to the door and I say sit once. If they don't sit within 3 seconds, I walk away and I sit down somewhere. Wait 1 minute, then go back to the door and say sit again. If they don't sit this time, I'll walk away for 2 minutes, next day for 4 minutes, and for 8 minutes. Now, if I go and he sits and she doesn't, I would open the door and let him out, not let her out. I'm paying based on performance. But as soon as one of them sits, that door opens right away. So now I would probably do that first before we do the video that's above this about teaching dogs to wait at the door, because that kind of sets it up. Now they learn to sit at the door first, and then the second stage is what I show you in the video above. So at first, do whatever direction they really are motivated by. If they really want to go outside, do it with them inside. And then eventually you do it both directions. But again, don't say the word multiple times. The more you say it, the less you mean it. So only say it once, give them 3 seconds, and walk away. And this is what I do as a behaviorist. I try to create controlled situations where the dog can do one thing that I want, as well as a couple things that I don't want. I don't say no, but it gets rewarded when it does the right thing, and nothing else happens for any other capacity. So this way, this is the benefit of, or this is the reason we use, well, not the reason, this is one of the way we structure things to use positive reinforcement. So we're rewarding the dog for doing desired actions. Dogs don't really learn for punitive punishment, and so that's why I don't practice any force or punishment-based training. Okay, if you have a trainer that wants to do force and dominance, that's the old way of training. Tell them to stop, be your dog's advocate. There's no reason a dog needs to feel pain or discomfort to learn. They actually will learn about 80% faster, and it's positive reinforcement based. Other rules: not being allowed to be in the kitchen when we're preparing food, not being allowed to be around the dinner table when we're eating. About 7 foot is the boundary we're looking for. No more feeding people food off of the plate. If you want to give some people food, make sure you put it into the dog's bowl after dinner. Make sure that the dogs are eating after the human eats something first. I prefer to feed the dogs one at a time. These dogs eat at the same time. For her, she's not the best eater, so I suggested adding some hot water to her food. Message me if you can't remember how to do that, and I can go through all the ins and outs for that. Thought I heard something over there.
It's just dripping water.
Oh, okay. Let me see. Teaching the dogs to stay and then asking them to stay before you call them up or down the stairs, come, is also a great thing to do. If you want to teach the dogs to stay, I can either arrange to have my guy James come by and do a training session with you, or message me. I can share a video on how to teach a dog to stay. But teaching the dog to stay, then going to the top of the stairs and calling the dog is a great way to go about doing that. Let me see. Don't let the dog go through the door first ahead of you. Look for ways to do leg gratification. He likes to fetch, but he's not as good. He's not as passionate about it as she is. For her, when she brings you the ball, make her drop it before you pick it up and throw it. Once she starts consistently dropping it for you, then make her drop it and then sit. and before you pick it up. And then drop it, sit, and then pick it up and wait for a second before you throw it, and then 2 seconds. Look for ways to delay gratification. Waiting for permission to eat food is also a great way to do about it. Making sure that the human is eating something before they feed them also helps. A chip or cracker, something that takes 5 or more bites will help. Now, because he's not a huge fetcher, but he does fetch a little bit, we can reward him and motivate him a little bit for that. So come outside with some high-value training treats, and then throw the ball. Now, when I play fetch, I say the word fetch really 4 times. We're gonna fetch, which is kind of the optional one. And then as I throw it, I say fetch as I throw it. When the dog picks up the ball with its mouth, I say the word fetch, and when it comes back to me, I hold the treat here in front of its nose. I don't tell them to drop. They're gonna try to take it with a ball in their mouth. As soon as they figure that doesn't work, they drop it, pop it in their mouth, and say fetch a 4th time. And then pick it up and throw it again. Now, if he only gets you 3 or 4 fetches, but you're giving a reward, you're saying fetch for each one of these stages, it makes it easier for him to understand, and now you're giving him a reward afterwards. Some dogs, the ball is the reward. In his case, it's not a high enough reward, so let's just spike the punch a little bit with something that he likes. But exercising the dogs, they're not super high energy dogs, they're older, so they don't need as much energy as exercise a puppy, but exercise can really help, especially if we're gonna have friends come over and they're being difficult. So we can go to the top of the stairs, throw a treat to the bottom of the stairs. That's a great way to exercise them. I tried the laser, he wasn't in the laser, she might be. Fetch is a great way to do it. Also, you might want to Google scent games. Having a dog use its nose is very physically draining for the dog, and it's also satisfying. I'd also like to look at Guardians to get some antlers, real bones, and you might want to get a Kong or 2.
I have Kongs.
Do you fill them with peanut butter?
I haven't used them recently.
So fill them up with peanut butter, especially when you leave the house or different things.
Give them
like
something to do.
Yeah, it gives them something to do. And you can also do that, like we get off the couch and then you put the Kong with peanut butter on the floor, another bit of a reward.
Great.
Let me see. Go to the Green Spot or Wolf and Whiskers and talk to the staff there about the diet. The dogs are eating vegan, and so one of the dogs is not as wild about it. I think that adding the warm water will help. But the Green Spot is the place I go to a lot, but we have a lot of clients who love Wolf and Whiskers as well. They're women who study animal nutrition as a college degree, so there's a lot of, I'm sure, tricks and tips. They might have different food options. The dogs are fed pretty much the same food, so you might want to just vary it up, getting a couple different brands of food or types of food so there's some variety. Just like us, even if I love pizza, if I have it for every meal, after a while I'm looking for something else. We also went over petting with a purpose and passive training. Without going through the details, petting with a purpose is asking the dog to do something if you want to pet the dog or the dog is demanding attention from you. So ask it to sit, if it's already sitting, ask it to lay down, do something. When you pet it under its chin and say just the command word. Not good sit, not oh what a sitter's, just sit. And try not to baby talk, just say it consistently the same way. Passive training is waiting for the dog to organically offer you a behavior that is desired by you and rewarding them within that 3-second window. So before, when the dogs are coming over to me, I was petting them and saying, come. Most of us train our dogs to misbehave because that's the fastest way to get our attention. And for dogs, attention itself is validating. So if the dog comes and sits in front of me, I ignore it while I watch TV. If the dog steals remote control, I get up and chase it. Well, for a dog, that's validating. So that's what the dog is going to continue to do. So by teaching the dog that I will pet you when you sit, I recognize when you sit or come or desired actions through passive training. Or if the dog tells me what to do, I don't do anything anymore. I give it a counter order, and when it does, it gets rewarded. That will cause the dog to start prepaying for attention, and if you get in a habit of doing these 2 things, every time you pet your dog, it becomes a micro dog training session without even thinking about it. Now to get a dog to come, I hold a treat in my hand, and I hold my hand palm up like this, come, then I start lowering it. And then when the dog goes where I want, I raise over their head and arc, come. Remember, say just the command word. So if the dog's not coming to you, if you're holding your hand like this and you say, come, she's not paying attention, so. And then I lower it, let her lick it off my hand, come. And make sure you say come, I didn't say it there for you, did I? But say just the command word and only the command word. I would probably feed him first and then have her eat afterwards if all things are equal. But again, feeding them separately, they don't have a problem with it, but I think it just adds a little bit of structure. It helps them practice that delayed gratification. Use the 4 escalating consequences to disagree with unwanted actions or behaviors. Every once in a while, knock on the walls for no reason. So you elicit a response over there. But after a while, your dogs will stop going to the door, assuming that means somebody's coming through. And then the dog guardian also mentioned the leash. They get excited for the leash. So for dogs, whoever's in front is perceived to be the leader. let's say that the leash is 10 feet away over here. I get up and start walking the leash. When the dog recognizes that I'm going to leash, it will race ahead of me because now it wants to take that leadership position. So as soon as it passes in front of me, I turn around and I walk and I sit back down. I don't say no, but I just stop petting or stop engaging. This is an example, light switch off. As soon as the dog comes back, it's like, are we going or what? I wait for the dog to settle down. When it's completely settled, then I get up and start walking again. I had a guy in Los Angeles, took 45 minutes of walking back and forth towards where the leash was before the dog figured it out and walked behind him the whole way. The next step is kind of what I show in the video above about the door. I reach for the leash. As soon as I reach, the dog gets up and wiggles. I pull back and I tell it to sit. And I keep doing this over and over. At first I can only reach this far, then I can reach this far, then this far, then this far. Then I can actually pick it up. But at any point the dog gets excited, I put it back and I either go sit down or I just wait for them to sit again. They don't sit within 3 seconds and go sit down. Eventually, when I can't pick it up, I jiggle it, I make it as noisy as possible, and the dog's got to stay seated, and I attach it to the dog's leash. I always want the dog to come to me versus me going to the dog, especially if I'm putting on a leash or anything. That's a leader-follower dynamic. If I'm going to the dog's in the leadership position. If it's coming to me, I'm in the leadership position. So by practicing this and breaking this up into stopping the activity, as soon as the dog starts getting too excited, remember, excited is not necessarily happy. Eventually the dog will stay behind you as you walk the whole way. They sit the whole way just like they did in the video above at the door. And then when you go for the walk, the energy that they're going to have is going to be beautiful. The energy they have before they leave the house is the energy they're going to carry with them on the walk. Now the guy in Los Angeles, 45 minutes just walking back and forth before the dog stayed behind him. It was an hour of reaching for the leash. So we're an hour and 45 minutes into this before we actually took the dogs for a walk. When we went for the walk, he was like, it was the best walk we've ever had. Second time, it was 20 minutes. Third time, it was 7 minutes. After that, it was 1 or 2 minutes. So most people just won't spend that tipping point and spend an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes. Well, here's one of the secrets. Practice leashing your dog when you don't have any intention of taking the dog for a walk. This is desensitizing. But after a while, right now, every time the leash gets guaranteed walk. Well, now, maybe there's a 20% chance of a walk. And if you are, well, we don't watch TV, but if you're in the middle of the Guardians are making out and they take a little bit of a break, go practice that for like 2 minutes, and then when you put the leash back and then you go back to make it out, the dog's like, oh, I messed it up, we were going for a walk and I screwed it up. Next time I'm going to sit so much faster, so much better. And so now we get to the point where the dog's like, this is another drill. Man, I'm tired of drilling. I know how to put the leash. Oh, we're walking. And you kind of catch them by surprise. So, and that's what as a behaviorist, that's what I try to do. So if your dogs have other behavior problems, identify how can I recreate this situation in a practice scenario so I'm aware of what's going on. I remove some of the elements to make it as easy a version as possible. And then when the dog does the thing that I want, I reward the heck out of it. But what I try to do is I teach it first step. The first step was, with the video above, is keeping the dogs away from the door. Second step was reaching for the door. Third step was the sound of the door, click, latch. Fourth step was open it back and forth. So I have the dog practice each individual step one at a time, and only once it does the proper thing on all the steps together do I string them all together in, again, the easiest capacity possible. Then I work back towards a real world situation. Come, that's a great example of passive training. So recreate those situations that your dog fails and teach them how you want to behave in each individual step, then work your way back to a real world situation. Dogs want to please us and make us happy. We usually do a pretty horrible job of doing that. Can we get you on camera for this little wrap up, buddy? Sit. Let's see if we can get you over here, sweetheart. All right, let's do it this way. All right, I'm going to completely...
Kohili. Kohili, Stokely.
Kohili. Sit. This is Kohili.
Yep.
This is Stokely. This is their roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.